Good morning, Tom Bird, Incident Meteorologist on the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon Fire here with Southwest Team 2, and we're going to give you a look at the weather for today. We'll start out like we have been with the satellite imagery. This is visible satellite from space looking down across the United States. We got the big picture so far today, and so we're looking. Let's focus out in the Atlantic, even though it has nothing to do with where we're at here, just something interesting to look at. This spin right here, that's what we call cyclonic. It's counterclockwise. That's the old tropical storm that was Alex that moved across the southern tip of Florida a couple of days ago, and it's heading out into the Atlantic. So now let's come back over into the southwest United States. And if we zoom in a bit, here's New Mexico. You can see we're cloud-free this morning. We've got a lot of westerly winds coming across, and those are dry. We did have a little bit of low-level clouds into the far eastern, northeastern plains of New Mexico. That was a weak little backdoor that's kind of pulled up lame, stalled out just to our northeast, but it did pull some moisture in the state. But we get those westerlies back in today, and that'll push that moisture back out. We got some overlays to throw on top of this today to try to demonstrate something. But before we do that, look what's happening down here in East Texas, Louisiana, southern Alabama, and Mississippi. You see these clouds starting to form, and you see they're moving north out of the Gulf into the Gulf Coast states. So now let's put this first overlay on, and we've zoomed in now, so now we can see this area of interest. Remember, we're over here in northeastern New Mexico. Here's the Gulf Coast right here of Texas and Louisiana. And what you're seeing is all these clouds moving in. And these green lines, those are dew point. I introduced that yesterday. It's just a measure of how much moisture is in the atmosphere. And we got our numbers really high up into Oklahoma and Kansas, and the numbers are really low out here where we're at. The lower the number, the drier the air. The higher the number, the more moist the air. So what we're seeing here is a bunch of this Gulf moisture starting to move up into the southern plains all the way as high as Nebraska, as far north. So now we'll put another overlay on top of this, and these will be yellow lines. These are streamlines. That's what we call them, and they show us how these particles of air are moving, really. And so you can see these little arrows on these lines kind of give us the direction. And so what's happening is off the Gulf of Mexico, we have this flow. We call that a return flow. It's from the south. It moves north. And it takes all that moisture out of the Gulf, gets it in the air, and then pulls it up into the southern United States, this south central area of the United States. What's important and what we're looking at right here is where that moisture comes in and kind of gets stuck, because out west you have winds coming in from the west. So what happens, if you look at these green lines, they're really packed through this area right here. That's a tight gradient with dry air over our area and more moist air just to our east. Remember, we're right here. So we're on that real tight gradient with dry air to the west, moist air to the east. And so we've got a battle going on. And over the next couple of days, we'll start to see some of that moisture move back in with some easterly winds moving back over the fire. But for today, and probably again for tomorrow, that dry air is gonna win out, and it's gonna keep that moisture just east of us. So now let's move on to the weather maps, all right? So we always look at today, and like I just showed you, that moisture is up out of the Gulf into these plain states and kind of hanging out just to our north and to our east. We got this little back door that I told you about, and we had those low clouds this morning associated with that. But here we are, and this afternoon the west winds take back over and push that moisture back out of the state, and we're looking for a dry day. I forgot to turn my phone off, so let's take a look. Hello, Tom Bird, Incident Meteorologist. Can I help you?
Hey Tom, how's it going? It's Sam up on Division Foxtrot.
Hey, how you doing, Sam? Let me walk over the map.
I'm doing pretty good. Hey, I got a question for you. So we're running a burnout operation up on Foxtrot this afternoon. So want to know what the winds are going to be doing, basically about 1,300 forward.
All right. So, yeah, I see you're up there on Elk Mountain near Foxtrot, and you got this line coming down off of the peak towards the west, right? Well, you know, yesterday you had a lot of winds coming from northwest to southeast across that line. I know you got a few spots, so I understand your concern. So what we're looking at this afternoon is those winds turning west and then southwest, and what that will do is it'll take those embers and push them back into the fire and not across the line where you don't want them. So I think This afternoon, you're really looking good for winds being in your favor.
All right, awesome. Hey, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. I'll pass that on to our crews, and we'll get going after it this afternoon. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, Sam. Thanks for calling, and if you need anything else, let me know. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, and that's a really good example of why we're here. Anybody from anywhere can kind of show these kind of maps and talk, but we do that hand holding. We actually get calls and we perform those kind of quick weather briefings on the fly all day long, just to try to help them know what to do or know how what they're doing is going to be impacted by weather. So let's get back to the maps. Sorry about that. So here we are today. I explained how we're going to be dry. We had that weak little front come in. Then we go back to Tuesday. So tomorrow, what happens is you can see that front kind of advanced a bit and kind of stalled. That's what this red and blue kind of shows as a stalled frontal boundary. And so it's now stalled to our south and our west. And what it does is it allows that a little bit more moisture to creep in and get a little bit more closer. So I think today, even though we're going to be dry, we'll see some cumulus clouds, which is indicative of some mid-level moisture, but they're going to be mostly thin and what we call fair weather, meaning they don't have enough depth of moisture to produce any showers or thunderstorms. But tomorrow, as we get that moisture dropping a little bit further to the south and to the west and up against the Sanguinity crystals where the fire is, we'll see more clouds in the afternoon. They'll be thicker, and there's a slightest of chance that one may be developing into a shower or thunderstorm in the vicinity of the fire. But still, again, tomorrow we think most of the activity will be to our north and to our east and moving towards the east away from the fire. So that's what the next 2 days look like. So we're starting that trend, even though we're dry today and pretty much dry tomorrow, we're going to see that moisture start to eke back in from the east. So let's move on now. What we're looking at here is we're kind of focused on moisture, okay? And this is a point, a forecast point that's right over the fire itself. And so what it's given us is from today all the way through next Wednesday, it's given a look at just how much cloud cover we can expect, and those dew points that I've been talking about, what kind of moisture amounts are in the atmosphere, and then relative humidity, a really important indicator to the firefighters out there of how dry or how moist the air is, which affects how dry or how moist the fuels are. So what we see here, not a lot of clouds today or tomorrow, not a lot of moisture today or tomorrow. Our relative humidity is really low. These are the daytime minimum relative humidities. At night, that RH always tries to come up a little bit. But even here, we call this the recovery, the overnight moisture recovery. Not very good the next 2 nights, and certainly low during the day today, again tomorrow. But when we get into Wednesday, we get a push from the east, a little weak backdoor front. It allows that Gulf moisture that I showed you earlier to move back in over the fire. It's a temporary thing. And so for Wednesday and Thursday, we definitely see a lot more clouds over the area. We'll see some morning low clouds on the east side of the fire for Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday afternoon or midday and beyond, we'll start seeing those convective clouds develop into showers and thunderstorms across the area, isolated and scattered. So not widespread, not a whole lot of coverage, but still really helping to get that relative humidity to come up, getting us more clouds, slightly cooler temperatures with that moisture. That moisture doesn't stay around very long. We get those westerly winds to come back in. We think it's going to be Thursday night going into Friday, and we start seeing lesser clouds as we go into the weekend and early the half of next week. That moisture starts to drop and the RHs start to get low. These afternoons will be below 15%. That's critically dry. We won't have a lot of good recovery at night. So we'll go right back into a dry period, but we do have a couple days where we'll moderate the fire weather. Right now we're elevated. We'll moderate for Wednesday and Thursday, start elevating again Friday on. So let's go on now to the next. This big picture here is today through Sunday, how much rain and where will it fall? And if you take 7 days, the next 7 days, and plot the rainfall every day across this area, this is pretty much what the Weather Prediction Center thinks we'll get over the fire. We get down here between 1/10 and 1/4, maybe even as much as small areas will get up to 1/2 inch. Now with thunderstorms, we say this all the time, it's a all or nothing kind of thing. Some places won't get a drop. Other places we'll get 1 inch. There's an issue with getting 1 inch over a burn scar. It means flash flooding, mudslides, stuff like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here's what it looks like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. These are the days with the better rain chances over here on the left. Tuesday, pretty slim chances, mostly north and east and moving away. Wednesday looks like the sweet spot. That's the best chance we have the next 3 days to see showers and thunderstorms over there. And then Thursday, lesser chances, but still in play, okay? So we do have 3 days where we do have some chance that we'd see some higher relative humidity, more clouds, lower temperatures, and those chances of rain. So let's move on. And this is the matrix. Usually it's the last slide, but I have one more slide after this. So here's the matrix. And we've already talked to most of this already, so we'll get through this pretty quick. Today and tomorrow, still a lot of red. That's the extreme to critical fire weather conditions. So we're still warm. We're still really dry in the afternoons, not getting a lot of recovery. We still have those gusty, mostly west-south winds. Then that front comes through Tuesday night, brings the moisture that'll stay in place for Wednesday and Thursday. Cooler temperatures, higher relative humidities. The overnight recoveries really come up. That's really helpful. And during the day, we don't get nearly as dry. So we start adding those good chances of showers and thunderstorms across the fire for those 2 days. Unfortunately, west winds kick back in. The west wind this time of year is a dry wind. So that means Friday, we start to see a lot less moisture. We're dropping our minimum and maximum relative humidities down with these westerly winds returning. Then we start seeing warmer temperatures going into the weekend. So going into the weekend, right back to dry, right back to warm, and still breezy as is typical over this area. We go into next week, and it's not on the chart here, but as we go into next week, high pressure settles over the area, keeps us dry. We'll probably see lesser wind, but our temperatures are really going to come up well above normal going into next week. So next week, we're certainly going to elevate the fire weather. But remember, we are deep in the heart of fire weather season. We don't get out of it until July. So let's go to our last slide for the day. So since we're talking about rainfall on Wednesday and Thursday, thought we'd talk about a little bit of the flooding. So typically what happens when you get a lot of rain out in the forest, there have been years and years and years of all those trees and brush and bushes dropping the limbs, the leaves, the needles, and they create a thick layer of what we call duff. Basically, it acts as a sponge when it rains. They absorb a lot of the moisture and hold it, and so it doesn't run off down the hill. And then the soils below that are usually pretty receptive to taking an infiltration of moisture. And so it slows the runoff, and it doesn't have as much runoff because so much of it gets absorbed and held in place. But when you burn off all of that duff down on the ground with this fire, now you just got slick ground, right? Slick ground that doesn't have any way to hold the moisture. And so when you get heavy rain on burnt ground, it just slides down. And so you get land slope. The degree of the slope actually affects how fast that water comes down. So if you live in the bottom of a drainage and the area above you has been burnt, you're susceptible to flash flood and mud flow and debris flow. So be really heads up the next couple of days when we start to see those showers and thunderstorms over the area. It's possible that you'll need to take big action pretty quick to get up out of that drainage, all right? So I just wanted to kind of pass that safety message on here at the end of today's update. And so that concludes what we're doing today. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.